Ladies, let me break something down to you right from the start. Men don't always realize what they've got when they've got it. Sometimes a woman can be standing right in front of him, loving him, supporting him, praying for him, giving him peace he can't find anywhere else, and he still won't see her value. Not because she isn't enough, but because he's too distracted, too comfortable, or too used to having her there. But the moment she steps back, the moment she goes quiet, the moment she stops showing up the way she used to, oh, that's when a man's whole world shifts. This message today, he didn't see you walking away. Now you're all he thinks about is about that shift. It's about what happens when a woman finally decides her heart deserves better. It's about how her silence, her growth, and her self-respect become louder than any words she could have spoken. And trust me, when a woman chooses herself, a man feels it deep, heavy, unshakable. So buckle up, because we're about to talk about truth, growth, and the powerful transformation that happens when a woman remembers her worth, while he realizes he overlooked the best thing he ever had. When you stop chasing, he starts remembering there comes a moment in every woman's journey where she looks in the mirror and realizes she is exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually tired. Tired of carrying the relationship on her back. Tired of being the only one who cares, the only one who initiates conversations, the only one trying to keep the connection alive. And that moment right there is when everything begins to shift. Because when a woman stops chasing a man, it's not an act of manipulation. It's not a tactic, it's a reflection of inner growth. It's a realization that chasing someone who barely turns around is breaking her spirit more than the relationship is building her up. A man gets used to being chased, he gets comfortable, he gets spoiled. He starts thinking your love is a guarantee, a forever supply that won't run out. He thinks you'll always be there, sending that good morning text, checking on him, solving problems he never addressed, carrying emotions he never held, repairing situations he caused. And that comfort becomes dangerous, not to him, but to you. Because the more he gets used to you chasing him, the more invisible your own needs become. The more he expects you to over-deliver, underlove yourself, and sacrifice your peace for his convenience. But the day you stop chasing, oh, that day feels like an earthquake in his world, even if he pretends not to notice at first. Men don't process things immediately. They don't wake up with revelation. They wake up with routine. They wake up expecting your energy to still be there. When that energy disappears, his mind becomes unsettled in a way he can't hide. At first it's confusion. Did she forget to text me? Then it turns into curiosity. Why she ain't blowing up my phone? Then it becomes irritation. Oh, so she's switching up now. But deep down inside, under all that ego and under all that pride, there's a quiet panic setting in. Because for the first time, he feels the possibility of losing you. And that possibility tastes different when it's real. See, when you were chasing him, you were doing the emotional labor for both of you. You were filling the empty spaces he neglected. You were balancing the weight he refused to carry. You were giving, nurturing, loving, without receiving much in return. But when you stop, when you pull your energy back into your own life, that's when he finally feels the weight of his own neglect. And the silence you give him becomes the same silence he once gave you, except now he can't handle it the way you did. Your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects his mistakes, his laziness, his arrogance, his blindness. And nothing shakes a man like being forced to see himself. When you stop chasing, he starts remembering every little thing he overlooked. He remembers the softness in your voice when you checked on him. He remembers the warmth of your presence when you comforted him. He remembers the excitement in your messages that he took hours to reply to. He remembers the effort you showed that he brushed off. He remembers your smile, your patience, your loyalty, your heart. He remembers the peace you brought that he confused for routine, because what felt like a habit to him was actually devotion from you. And now he has to sit with the truth that he had something rare, but he was too distracted to value it. A man doesn't remember you when you chase him. He remembers you when you stop. He remembers you when your absence becomes the loudest presence in his life. He remembers you when life doesn't feel as soft anymore, when the validation you used to give him no longer cushions his insecurities, when other women don't bring the depth you brought, when conversations lack the emotional connection he got so accustomed to. When he realizes he wasn't being loved by just any woman, he was being loved by someone who gave from the soul. And while he's remembering, replaying, missing, regretting, you're healing. You're rediscovering yourself. You're learning how to pour into your own cup without waiting for someone to notice. And that's exactly what starts haunting him. Because men don't panic when you're crying. They panic when you stop. They don't panic when you're arguing. They panic when you become calm. They don't panic when you're chasing. They panic when you let go. Because letting go means you finally saw your worth. And nothing terrifies a man more than a woman who realizes she doesn't need him to breathe, to live, to feel whole. He starts remembering not because you walked away, but because you stopped pushing him to stay. Men notice distance differently. They feel it late, they understand it slowly. But once it hits them, it hits hard. Suddenly, he understands that your absence wasn't a punishment. It was a confirmation that he failed to appreciate a woman who loved him fully. And now that you're gone, you are all he thinks about, not because he wants control, but because he finally recognizes the value of what he lost. He never expected your silence to be this powerful. A woman's silence is a language men never learn until it's too late. See, a man can ignore your words, dismiss your feelings, brush off your concerns, and overlook your tears, but your silence. Oh, your silence is different. Your silence hits him in places your conversations never reached. Your silence forces him to confront wounds he's been avoiding and truths he didn't want to acknowledge. When you stop talking, stop explaining, stop defending, stop reminding, he realizes that something has shifted. And that shift shakes him in a way he never saw coming. Because let's be honest, he never expected you to go quiet. He expected the arguments, the tears, the emotional breakdowns that we need to talk, messages. He expected you to react because reacting meant you were still emotionally invested. But when you stopped reacting, when you went silent, when the drama left your voice and the frustration left your words, he didn't know what to do with that. Men understand conflict. Men understand noise. Men understand your emotional fire. But they do not know how to handle peace, especially the kind of peace where you detach. Your silence tells him something words never could. You are done trying. And that realization hits him like a cold wave. Suddenly, he's paying attention to details he ignored before. He's reading old messages. He's replaying old conversations. He's thinking about all the times you tried to be heard and he didn't listen. Silence forces a man to revisit every moment he dismissed. He never expected your quiet to become his anxiety, his regret, his late night thoughts. But that's exactly what happens. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects back everything he did wrong, a mirror that reveals how loud his disrespect actually was, a mirror that shows him how deeply he overlooked the woman who once gave him her voice, her patience, her heart. When you stop speaking, he finally hears what your spirit was screaming long before you left. Because silence is truth. Silence is closure. Silence is self-respect wrapped in peace. And nothing terrifies a man more than realizing he pushed a woman to the point where her peace mattered more than his presence. He never expected your silence to be powerful because he underestimated you. He thought you needed him to feel whole. He thought you would always chase communication, always fix what he broke, always initiate the healing. But you showed him something he didn't believe. You can walk away without making noise. You can detach without creating chaos. You can move forward without announcing it. And that level of self-control, that level of emotional maturity, that level of strength, it shocks a man who thought he had you figured out. When you go silent, he starts to doubt himself. He questions everything. Is she talking to someone else? Did she stop loving me? Did she finally get tired? Did she hate me? Did I lose my chance for good? That silence becomes a thunderstorm inside his mind. Every minute feels heavier. Every hour feels longer. Every day feels emptier, because your silence is not just absence. Your silence is a shift in energy. And men feel energy more than they feel words. You see, silence doesn't mean you're weak. Silence means you've grown. It means you choose yourself. It means you refuse to keep pouring into a space that drained you. Silence is a boundary, a decision, a declaration. I will not lose myself trying to be heard by someone who refuses to listen. That kind of silence is powerful because it comes from a woman who is done breaking her own heart just to keep the relationship alive. And here's the thing, when a good woman goes quiet, it's not because she doesn't care anymore. It's because she finally realized caring alone was killing her. He never expected you to take back your power in such a calm, graceful, unshakable way. He never expected you to reclaim your peace. He never expected you to choose yourself over the cycle of pain you were stuck in. That silence tells him he no longer has access to your emotions. And that's what haunts him the most. Because what a man fears the most is not losing the relationship, it's losing the version of you that loved him unconditionally. And your silence tells him that version of you has retired. That version of you is gone. That version of you has healed. Now he's sitting with the weight of his actions, realizing that silence was never your weakness, it was your awakening. And the truth is, once a woman discovers the power of her silence, she never goes back to begging to be understood. She simply steps into a higher version of herself, one he now thinks about constantly, because he never imagined the quietest moment of your life would become the loudest wake-up call of his. You break his pattern, and that changes everything. A man lives by patterns, by routine, by rhythm, by the same emotional habits he's followed for years, sometimes for his whole life. And whether he admits it or not, you became part of that pattern. You became the one he expected to be there, the one who understood him even when he didn't make sense, the one who forgave him faster than he apologized, the one who held the relationship together when he checked out, the one who carried emotional weight he never even tried to lift. Without realizing it, he settled into a pattern where your love was guaranteed, your loyalty was automatic, and your presence was secure. He didn't do this out of malice. He did it out of comfort, out of habit, out of the unspoken belief that no matter how inconsistent he was, you were consistent enough for both of you. But when you walk away, when you detach, when you stop doing what you've always done, you break that pattern, and that shakes him in a way nothing else can. Because men are not afraid of losing the relationship as much as they are afraid of losing the predictable version of you that made their life easier. He never expected you to disrupt the rhythm he was used to. But the day you stop texting first, stop showing up emotionally, stop giving him second chances, that's the day his world feels different. You think you're just reclaiming your peace, but what you're really doing is sending his mind into a spiral. Humans don't notice patterns until they change, and when he feels the absence of what he used to receive freely, that's when the truth hits him. He depended on you more than he ever acknowledged. Your good heart wasn't just something he liked. It was part of the structure of his life. Your energy wasn't just appreciated. It was holding up emotional spaces he never filled. Your consistency wasn't just love. It was comfort disguised as companionship. When you break a man's pattern, you interrupt his comfort zone. And nobody feels discomfort the way a man does when he realizes he's no longer the center of a woman's emotional universe. Suddenly, the responses are shorter. The energy is quieter. The access he used to enjoy is no longer available. He feels the shift before he understands it. Something feels off. Something feels different. Something feels wrong. And that wrong starts eating at him because it forces him to recognize how much he relied on you without appreciating you. He starts noticing things he never paid attention to. The good morning text he used to skim through, now he notices it's gone. The calls you used to initiate, he realizes he hasn't heard your voice in days. The emotional support he took for granted, he feels the distance like a weight on his chest. That's because breaking his pattern exposes the truth. He was comfortable, not committed. He was benefiting, not building. He was receiving, not reciprocating. And when he can no longer lean on your emotional labor, he feels lost. Men don't know how to handle emotional shifts the way women do. Women evolve through emotional change, men panic through it. He starts questioning himself. He starts thinking about you nonstop. He starts replaying every moment where he felt your love, because now he's finally realizing just how much of it was shaping his life. The pattern he thought would last forever is gone. And that is a shock he never prepared for. Breaking his pattern forces him to face the imbalance he created. He starts noticing that other people don't care the way you did. Other women don't understand him like you did. Conversations don't feel the same. The laughter is different. The connection is shallow. He starts comparing every new interaction to the emotional depth you provided effortlessly. He didn't see how unique your energy was when he had it, but now in your absence, he can't stop thinking about how irreplaceable it really was. When you break his pattern, you break his sense of control. Men rely heavily on predictability because it makes them feel safe. But your shift reminds him that he is not entitled to your love. That love must be earned, not expected. And when he realizes how easy it was for you to walk away from the version of yourself that served him more than it served you, he starts panicking inside. Because if you can shift your pattern, that means you can shift your standards. And if you shift your standards, he knows he might not fit into the new version of your life. The powerful thing is, breaking his pattern doesn't just change how he thinks, it changes who he becomes. He starts reflecting, he starts evaluating, he starts remembering moments he dismissed, he starts regretting moves he downplayed. He starts understanding the value of the things you always brought to the table. And the more he realizes, the more he thinks about you. Because the woman he took for granted has now become the woman he can't get off his mind. Your shift becomes his wake-up call, his lesson, his regret, his turning point. His entire emotional system has to adjust to life without your familiar presence. And that adjustment hurts. Not because he lost you, but because he lost the version of himself that only felt whole when you were giving. You breaking his pattern didn't just change everything for him. It changed everything about him. He sees you becoming who you were meant to be. There is something incredibly powerful, almost breathtaking, about a woman rising back into herself after she's been drained, overlooked, undervalued, or taken for granted. And when a man watches that transformation from the outside, especially a man who once had access to your heart, it hits him deeper than anything you could have ever said to him. Because now he's witnessing the version of you that he never allowed himself to appreciate. The version of you that was always inside you, but buried under disappointment, unbalanced effort, and emotional exhaustion. When you walk away, when you detach, when you stop pouring your energy into someone who couldn't reciprocate, something inside you begins to awaken. You start reclaiming pieces of yourself you forgot you had. You start remembering who you were before the relationship drained you. You start rebuilding your confidence, your peace, your joy. And that glow, that shift, that rise, he sees it. And the truth is, he never expected to see you become stronger, happier, more focused, and more grounded without him. Because while you were with him, he got used to seeing the tired version of you, the anxious version of you, the worried version of you, the version of you constantly trying to fix things, hold things together, and prove your worth. He saw you in survival mode so long that he convinced himself that was just who you were. He didn't realize that the woman standing in front of him back then was not your final form. She was your drained form. She was the version created by his inconsistency, his lack of effort, his mixed signals, and his emotional immaturity. But the moment you stopped chasing, the moment you stopped over-giving, The moment you redirected that love back into your own life, you began evolving, and your evolution is something he cannot ignore. He sees the difference in your energy. You're calmer now, more centered.